And we're joined here in the studio by Phil Johnson. Thank you very much for joining us. As this inquiry gets underway, what are your hopes and expectations?
Well, I'm very glad that it's actually finally getting underway. It's been, a very long, hard struggle and a lot of campaigning by people like Phil and myself and many, many others to get this far. I mean, there have been false starts, it's been a very rocky road, but I hope that now we can look forward to it actually doing some proper investigative work and getting to the truth to try and get justice for survivors.
I spoke to Keith Vaz a little earlier. He said potentially this could take up to 10 years, cost tens of millions of pounds. The cost aside, what about a time frame like that? Would that be acceptable to you?
I think it'll have to take as long as it takes. I don't think that very many people in British society realise just the scale and scope of child abuse in our society and the extent to which it's been covered up by institutions and the failings of the authorities through social services, through the care home system, through churches and the police and investigators. Just how the lack of resources that's been given to actually truly uncovering what's happened. How
important a moment is this for victims? I mean, you talk obviously about so many institutions, some have been better than others at handling what has gone on. What have your experiences been? Well,
my experiences personally have been terrible. I mean, I've been through 3 previous independent inquiries, which were supposedly independent, but they were set up by the churches, which were the institutions in which I was abused. So each one of those has been challenged and has led to another inquiry. So it's very important that we get to a full, proper, statutory independent inquiry, which is what we're on the brink of at the moment. I agree with Phil to a large extent about survivor representation. It's very important. The survivors are the experts in this. We cannot trust the institutions to hand over all the evidence because, as has happened in the churches in the past, a lot of the most incriminating evidence has been destroyed or lost. So it's very important that survivors are represented. We have now the VSCP, Victim and Survivors Consultative Panel, who the appointees are being announced today. They are currently negotiating their own terms of reference for their role within the inquiry. That is our voice at the moment, so it's important that people like Phil and I liaise very closely with them, lobby them, work with them to try and get survivors' voices heard by the inquiry panel and by Justice Goddard.
You're obviously very strong to fight, but getting to this point clearly will not have been easy. Just tell us how this has defined you. I mean, does this dominate your life now, Phil?
Well, it does, unfortunately. I mean, I've said in interviews and things before that, when you ask a child what they want to be when they grow up, nobody says, I want to be a professional survivor of child abuse. It's not something you want, but it does define your life. And those of us who are robust enough, like Phil and myself, to be able to campaign and stand up to society and the authorities, I think we have a duty to do so, and I think that it's a way of putting the horrendous experiences of our past to positive use and helping other people. One, really important factor in this inquiry is, I would encourage survivors to come forward and tell their stories. They are the experts. They're the people who know the truth. There are many people in authorities who are going to want to cover things up and hide them. It's crucial that the survivors tell their truths.
So if there's somebody at home potentially watching who feels like they've not spoken about something, how hard is it for that person to come forward?
It can be incredibly hard, and it can be very re-traumatising. And, there are people who have taken their lives over this. People who are in prisons, who have drug and alcohol problems, people who, are in mental institutions. So it's crucial that the inquiry, the panel, the secretariat ensure that there's adequate support for people. So there's counselling support, whatever support they require, really, and that needs to be adequately funded. Now, I know this inquiry is going to be very, very expensive, but, what price do you put on protecting our children and ensuring this doesn't continue to happen in the future? So, yes, I think it will be troubling, it will be difficult for people, it will be traumatic, but we need to continue to campaign to make sure that these people are supported and hopefully they will get truth and justice without having to suffer anymore.
Phil Johnson from Minister and Clergy Sexual Abuse Survivors, thank you very much. Thank you.